rumour has it they're bringing Gareth Bale back. Another deal that might be signed on the dotted line
about this.
by the time this goes out. And yeah, imagine Gareth Bale versus James Rodriguez, a competition for who can finish 6th in the Premier League. His agent Jonathan Barnett has said that the move is close, but no cigar, pretty much. It appears like a loan deal is going to be the most viable, with Spurs picking up around £300,000 of that £600,000 a week wage. Certainly not going to foot the whole thing, are they? That would totally blow open their current wage structure. And according to Jack Pitbrook from The Athletic, it was very much a deal that Daniel Levy wanted to broker rather than Jose Mourinho. And this mooted swap deal with Dele Alli was never really on the cards. We were pretty excited about that last night because it made for a good transfer talk title this morning, but not really gone that way. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit. I'm a little bit stuck because pre-COVID, Spurs' finances were in great shape. They made a profit of 87 million in the year leading up to June 2019. And I think their wage to turnover was the lowest in the Premier League at around 39%. That is absolutely super, by the way. Some of the top sides, you're looking at between 60 and 70%. And so to still be able to compete for 6th, you would argue, pretty good achievement. But then they did put staff on furlough, didn't they? They did seem like they were going to batten down the hatches. But rumour has it, willing to spunk that wage on Gareth Bale. And yesterday, they were linked with Belotti from Torino for 50 million, which for me doesn't make that much sense to have a backup striker sat on the bench and paying £50 million for him. I did get into a little bit of an argument with people on Twitter over the merits of spending that much on someone who is definitely not going to take Harry Kane's place. Like, Belotti has never played anywhere else other than the most advanced centre forward, which is very much a position occupied by Harry Kane, isn't it? So I was saying, why don't they go after Maxi Gomez from Valencia instead, who are trying to ship him out for 15 mil apparently. Had 2 excellent seasons at Celta Vigo, 12 goal contributions and 25 starts last campaign for Valencia, and they're trying to balance the books in a pretty extreme way, aren't they? And then that might facilitate a move for someone like Sangare as well, who more legs are needed at the base of midfield. That is something we just discussed. I don't think
what are your thoughts on Bale? Just to bring it back to Bale, sorry. What are your thoughts on him? Do you think this is a good signing because it is big wage?
Yeah, I don't really need to touch upon his past exploits. We know what he sort of brought to the side when he was there. But I think at this point it's worth doing. Like, everyone else has strengthened pretty significantly, barring Liverpool, of course, in the hunt for those Champions League places. And it might not be the most sensible financially, and this is in direct contradiction with what I've just said about Belotti, but he gives everyone around the club a huge lift. Like, he's still a very useful player when he is fit. His fitness is a concern. He only played a half for Wales, didn't he, on international duty before he was hauled off the other week, so he clearly needs to get back up there in terms of his fitness. But it's fun, and I want to see cash-rich owners pump money back into football, back into the clubs. So it remains unpredictable. So yeah, get him through the door, get him signed on the dotted line.
Yeah, I have to say, I really like this move. I'm buzzing about seeing him back at Tottenham Hotspur. Yeah, I think this is so fun, and I do think he'll get 10 to 15 goal contributions this season.
I'm not hot on it really at all, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's got to be from a financial point of view, right? Surely it excites you in terms of like his ability, his stature.
I don't think
a front line of Son, Kane and Bale.
I'm not totally sure that Bale is still the player that you guys think he was even 2 years ago. He had a
Troy Deeney got 10 goal involvements in the Premier League last season.
He had a pretty terrible year last year. He's not fully fit at the moment. He's actually out with a knee injury as it stands. And according to all Madrid analysts that I read about on Twitter, they basically say he's kind of done at the top level. And you say it's just those wages, but it's going to cost 15. I think it's close to £16 million in wages for 1 year. And yes, they might get that back in commercial deals, but also, what does that do with your new January signing, Steven Bergwijn? He was brought in for £23 million. You've already got Lucas Moura who can play there. You've already got Son who can play on the left. I think if it's the sort of signing that will be easier to judge at the end of the window. If it means that they can't get a striker in, I'm really against it. If they get a striker in, I don't think it matters too much.
But do you not think it then allows Son to play as a striker?
But you don't want Son playing as a striker. You want him in his preferred position on the left wing. I think he's fine as a striker, but for me, he's always best on the left wing. And yeah, I agree with you. Son, Kane, Bale. It's a fun front line, but it's just not address the areas that Spurs needed to most of all, which is like a long-term centre back and potentially another holding midfielder and definitely another striker.
But I think this deal exists outside the realms of what is sensible. Like, I get what you're saying, and he has missed
any deal on that run.
He's missed 65 games of injury since the start of 16-17. He only contributed to 4 goals in 19 league appearances last term. But you've got to trust that the Spurs medical department are going to be able to judge if he can contribute physically in a meaningful way.
They haven't had a great record with Kane, have they? Like, do you back the Spurs medical department to make the best decisions for their players? They've had a terrible time.
I back them to judge whether like he's physically spent at the top level, which I don't really buy into. And this is kind of a narrative that was pushed about James Rodriguez going to Everton, and after week 1 he sort of won us all over. And even then, yes, that is people jumping the gun a little bit potentially, but I'm starting to become of the mindset where looking out for like clubs financially does not really equate to it being a spectacle for the fans. And like justifying.
I think we can all agree it's fun.
Tottenham fans will all want this to happen as well. Like this is a buzz for a Tottenham fan.
I'm much keener on him going to Spurs than United, I have to say. Like, it just makes so much more sense. But I just don't think like long term this is very good squad planning at all.
But the long-term squad planning has already been done with the covering of with Bergwijn.
But if it means you've got 15-16 million pounds less to spend on a top quality striker, which you'll need to when Kane inevitably misses at least 15 games next year, then I just think you're just shooting yourself in the foot for a glamorous player who, on the basis of the last few years, can only play 25 games per season.
What makes you say Kane's going to miss 15 games next year? And that signing Gareth Bale means they don't sign another striker. Like, particularly if there's value in the market. It
doesn't necessarily. That's why I initially said we'll judge at the end of the window. But as it stands at the moment, which is all we can go across, I don't think this is very sensible. It's just my opinion, but I just think Kane, he's not gone through a year in the last 4 where he hasn't missed at least 10 games. This is just not what I would have done with that cash.
It is fun though, Dukes, isn't it? It is a fun,
it's fun.
It's perspective.
It's a fun lineup. I just don't think it's very sensible. But that's two different things. I agree.
It's also
because Spurs have been extremely sensible in recent windows, and it's equated to them slipping further and further down the table.
And I also do think that, like, just from a neutral's perspective, I want to see Gareth Bale running out under Jose Mourinho. Like, he's such a Mourinho player. I know that we just spoke about is like Daniel Levy pushing this transfer, but there's no way Mourinho is in the background going, yeah, I'll take Bale if you can give me Bale.
Fair. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what sort of state he's in. We'll see how he performs this year. I'll just put it on record. I'm not a fan
of it. I think a loan deal paying half the wage is perfectly...
He's going to be on 100k more than their highest earner.
Yeah, but most people
not on a full-time contract.
Most people competing at the top 6 in the Premier League will have a player that is on that sort of money now, won't they? Like, there is more riding on his output, yes, but I think as long as he gets 15 goal involvements and raises the club's mood, which is pretty flat right now, isn't it? Then that'll be a reasonable loan deal.